Discord is a label. The word hardcore is a category that we're not comfortable with. So there's a lot of different, there's thousands of different definitions for that word. So I think that the word was really meaningless. We're an independent label, an alternative label, and and we definitely start out as a punk label, like in those roots or whatever. But as far as a hardcore label, I think that's a category that's rather confining, that I'm not interested in being categorized as. The label started in 1980. December 1980 was our first release. The idea was to document a certain community of musicians in Washington, D.C. And now as we come close to December 1990, Discord is still a label that is documenting a community of musicians in Washington, D.C. We pretty much have succeeded in what we set out to do, and we'll continue to do it as long as that community exists. When the community stops, so does the label. We are a well-known label, which is interesting, but we're not particularly ambitious, and we don't want to be a major label or anything like that. We want to do what we set out to do, and like I said, we'll do that until we're done. I don't know what you mean by logo, but I'll take your, I don't know. You mean, yeah.
I mean more of the design, the design as a recognizable feature, which you immediately see, it's Discord.
The little, just a little something we drew.
So what you're saying is Discord is really an artistic project exclusively for Washington bands.
Yeah, always has been. Yeah, I mean, it was formed purely to document the music that was important to us. And part of the hope in that was that other people in other areas would also document the music that was important to them. Punk rock started out in America as a very regional thing, and there was different cities and different styles of music and different sorts of dancing and so forth. So we just felt like we should document Washington, D.C., which we thought was rather important because that's where we lived. And there's a lot of reasons for doing this. One of the main ones is that we deal only with our friends. We don't have to rely on business contracts or anything like that. We don't use contracts. We don't just make them sign anything. We don't take away the rights to their songs. Nothing, We just work with our friends, and it just works out to be a better situation for us, because I have a lot of contempt for the record industry, and I don't particularly want to be a part of it any more than I have to. The fact that we started our own label is proof of that. When you don't want to be a part of something, you do it yourself. So we did.
They put your label in that category: hardcore, Discord, punk bands.
I don't really care what people think about the label or about the bands, or whatever. I'm not gonna be a part of. I'm not gonna play a part of that and say yes, we are this. We're not. We're a label, and I think that it's, having played music for 10 years and been involved with hundreds of bands. When you have bands like Shudder to Think, Fidelity Jones, Soulside, Holy Rollers, or Fugazi, I think there's enough of a variance there that a label, any category, is only limiting, in my opinion. And it's too convenient for people, particularly the media or journalists, fanzine people, whatever. It's too convenient for them to have those sort of labels. It just because they don't mean anything anymore. So people are welcome to call it what they want. I'm just not going to agree with them. I'm just going to say, well, yeah, we're Fugazi. Yeah, the label is Discord, and we'll leave it at that. Like young people's vision of life and music, I think it's a good thing. And I think that even though we all are getting older, I think that kind of the decisions that we made as teenagers or as youths or whatever were really, really important to where we are now today. And I always will support the freedom of choice for kids, man. I think it's really important that kids have the alternatives and can know about it and go be a part of it if they want, to go to the underground. I think the underground the underground has always been a breeding, like just a breeding area for true creativity, where people can do what they want to do and not have to follow necessarily sets of rules. Although there are plenty of rules that can be sort of applied, such as categories, but we'll ignore that for now. The underground does offer like a lot of potential, and I hope that I always will support the underground.
A specific question regarding Discord Records. Have you ever thought of using the label as a mouthpiece, for instance, for exposing political repression, as you often sometimes find on other underground product?
I would say that first off, that anything you do, particularly anything you do part of an alternative community, is ipso facto a political statement and expression. That's not necessarily to be confused with politicians and necessarily political groups. It merely means that to exist independent of the mainstream is a political feat, in my opinion. If you're familiar with the label, you would know that we did release the State of the Union album, which definitely was, I'd say, rather explicit. Had rather explicit expressions from people about the political situations in the world. We find that the creativity we leave to the bands. If the bands say something, then we will support them in what they have to say. The label itself, again, is only a vehicle for this stuff to be released. It's left to the bands to decide what they want to do, like politically. Fugazi, for instance, plays many, many benefits. Like in Washington, we haven't played a paying gig for over a year. This is partly to raise consciousness, which is very important. More importantly, it's to raise cash for groups that we think are important. And if you want an example of those groups, I can tell you homelessness groups in Washington, which was a very big problem in America, people who have nowhere to live, shelters, women's shelters, children's shelters, soup kitchens, free clinics, AIDS activism, gay rights groups, environmental groups, women's rights groups, prison rights groups, prison reform groups. These are things that we feel personally as individuals, as human beings, we think are very important. And being a member of a band gives us an opportunity to gather people, and because of that, gather money. And with that money, we can put it towards people who are on the front lines of those causes, which we feel are important. I think a lot of times, the way we look at it, that expressions about certain political things, it dates your music, whatever, and it dates your expression. And I think that rebellion, I think the power and the right to speak out is timeless and should not be dated. I don't want 1990 written on the words that I sing, because that right to express myself is timeless.